Hello, family. We're back from our break. This is a Shot of E&J podcast. My name is Jeremy Anato-Mensah. I'm with my co-host, Eric Igwe. And we're going to get into this discussion about student loan debt, right?
Yep. But I want to make sure before we do that,
okay,
let's give a shout out to Hit Culture Digital. They're the one who put this show together, putting this show together, in production. They're involved in every aspect. So I want to give kudos to Hit Culture Digital. Please check them out, hitculturedigital.com. Culture with the K. All right, no, don't do the C now. The K. So hitculturedigital.com. Come check them out. Props to them. All right, go ahead.
All right. So, brother, I mean, what are we talking about? We're talking about student loans, and it's a national political issue now, right? So I want you to intro this for the people. What are student loans, and why is it such a big problem in our country today?
Man, that's a heavy type question. So, student loans. Right now in this country, student loan debt is around over $1.7 trillion, right?
Okay.
Different numbers you're looking around, but $1.7 trillion, right? Yep. That's a lot tied to student loans. So you're talking about people who are not able to realize the American dream, or maybe deprive an American dream because they got to pay for student loan debt.
Yeah.
I got student loans.
Me too.
Now, I'm blessed where I have a job where I can still take care of business and responsibilities, and I'm thankful. But student loans, to some degree, can limit me to do certain other things, which I can't wait.
Can't take that trip to Greece time.
Hey, you better stop. I ain't trying to do all that. No. But, it limits you on certain things. Now, I'm thankful. I'm blessed. But it can limit me to certain things. And Lord, pray. Hopefully a couple more years I pay off my student loans. But I'm counting. But student loans is a huge issue in this country. Like I said, when I mentioned we have a $1.7 trillion in student loan debt, that is huge.
It is.
That we're dealing with. There are people every day that are suffering. There's people who are living paycheck to paycheck. Right. And at least 25% of check probably goes towards student loans, maybe more than that. Goes into student loans payments. The situation has got exacerbated during the pandemic, right? Yeah. With this pandemic that's happened, then all of a sudden people lose jobs, right? Don't have access to certain income, and then how am I supposed to pay this heavy student loans? And then if you're not on what we'll talk about later on, income-based repayment, where your student loan payments is based on your income, or you're on other plans, then you're not able to pay your student loans, right? Then it adds up, and the interest adds up. Then you're behind. Then you're defaulting. And if you're default, that's on your record, right? If it's on your record, what can you do? Can you get you a house? Can you affect you getting a car? Affect you making anything so many different moves.
Requires credit.
And so this is a big time issue because with this market, and I would say especially in 2008, since the big crisis, you're talking about people spending $60,000, $70,000 in tuition, right? But getting jobs are like $50,000, $60,000. Or $40,000, $30,000, $40,000, right? And so the dream of, hey, let's go get a degree and get on student loans, and looking at the reality like, hey, I pay this much in student loans and I have to deal with this. Or I pay over $200,000-$300,000 in graduate student loans, but I end up getting a $100K job. And so it depends on the school, of course. But to me, those are some of the big issues that's facing us, and this is why it has to take a greater look, because the numbers are going to get worse. And when you're talking about providing hope for young people who are dealing with student loan crisis or in jobs that they don't want to be, or jobs that are a lot lower paid than they anticipated when they walk out, those are becoming the issues. And like I said, with the pandemic, it's got worse. So student loan debt is a huge issue. President Biden had his pitch in terms of one of the, I think he was pushing for $10,000 forgiveness $10,000 through Congress.
For me lately.
But you got Democrats saying, hey, they want to, at least waive $50,000. But what's your thoughts on student loans, the state of student loan crisis?
So first, I think, it's important to give some context as well, right? So generally speaking, people are taking on these direct loans, right? And you have different types of student loans that people can take. So you can take the loan from the government, the federal student loan, or you can actually also get a private loan, right? Yep. Which is not through the government. Yep. Then you have your unsubsidized loans and your subsidized loans. And to make it real simple, one, the subsidized loan, the government is helping you out, right? They're contributing, if you will, to some of the interest on the loan. Is that correct?
Well, yes, because subsidized loans is really for undergrads. If you're undergrad in college, subsidized loan. If you're a grad student, you can't get subsidized loan.
Right.
The government pays for your the interest. The education department the pays for your interest while you're in school.
Right.
Now, once you leave school on subsidized loan, you got to pay interest.
Right.
But when you're in school for 4 years and you don't have to pay interest, that's powerful.
Right.
And
Now, to be fair, in this conversation for grad students, there are some federal grants and grants and whatever, which is different than the loan. But if we're just saying that there are ways for grad students to still get free money or money that is assistance for.
It's a lot harder because
for sure.
Like I said, subsidized loans only is good for undergrads. Grad students only eligible really for there's different loans, but mainly unsubsidized loans where you're accruing interest from the moment that you got the loan. Yeah, even while you're in school.
And then, we'll get into this a little later, the loan forgiveness type programs that are out there. What do I think about it, generally speaking, though? I think that the cost of education has become very, very high. And what we're seeing now is that as a result of these high costs and, high prices that students are being charged for anything from, you talk about textbooks, to room and board, all of those things are really just adding to the exorbitant cost of, going and getting a college education. And so to me, that's really where the issue really lies. That needs to be addressed because then when you address the cost issue, then, as a matter of how you're going to fund your education, it becomes a lot more feasible for, parents to pay for school or someone to, be able to work and pay for school while they're actually, attending an undergraduate program. So I think that's where you start. I think, clearly though, right now there's a problem. So what'd you say? You said 1.7 trillion was that? Okay.
At least around, yeah.
So that would suggest that there needs to be some type of government intervention or program to address it. Now, what that is a matter of debate, right?
It is.
And that's what we're going to talk about here in a second. So what do you have any thoughts about that, where we are right now, the state of student loans right now?
No, I mean, that's like I said, it's disturbing. I think you brought up a good point about the rise of education costs. Yeah. I used to hear people say, I paid this much in tuition in the 80s. I'm like, if I only had that much chance. I mean,
I would have not had any debt.
Yeah, we know there's inflation and rise of costs, but I mean, it's getting to the point where is the degree worth it? Yeah,
it's the inflation, the rising cost of education has far outpaced the rate of inflation.
Absolutely. Yeah. No, it's not. And so you get to the point all right, if I'm paying $67,000 for this degree, but I'm coming out making $40,000, how does it gonna work for me? Or if I'm in grad school and I gotta go to a program and I'm paying over $100,000, what's gonna happen for me? Like I said, for me, undergrad, I had student loans. Grad school, I went to private university. Private. Shout out to Howard University. Gotta love the mecca of all HBCUs. So put it out there.
What's that? Well, hold on. You didn't say the part. Like, what are you doing?
I mean, the people out there know. So, okay. It's enough said. So, but you went to Howard, right? So I got, the tuition. I mean, it's private university. Yeah. And so I came out. First year, I think all mine were student loans, and it was a lot.
Hit you over the head real quick.
It was a lot, you know what I mean? And then second year, I was fortunate because I was part of a program where my tuition was waived. Okay. But I still had all the other expenses.
Can we say privilege?
No, but
all his tuition was waived.
No. But think about that. Tuition was high. I'm trying to remember what it was like.
You're making my point no more that you were privileged. All your tuition was waived?
No. Yeah, just the tuition. But remember, I lived in D.C.
Yeah. And DC, but you was going to pay for room and board regardless.
Yeah. But what I want to say I paid, I want to say my cost when the first year was up to close to $50K or something. Something for the first year alone. It was both tuition and expenses. So that give you insight on how big my student loans are. But and I'm just talking grad. And I just said the first year. And so carrying on that, and then you're hoping you coming out like, oh man, I got to make some good money, right? Yeah. So I can go ahead and take care of the tuition, student loans, because I had some from undergrad, add this on. But I'm also fortunate too. But I didn't. When I came out, I had an income where I had to make some adjustments because I didn't start necessarily with the income I wanted. You know, it was at least Nick wanted. Blessed with a job, enjoyed it, but you have to start making adjustments and saying, all right, I'm doing the student loans. I paid this much. How am I going to properly repay it to protect me? But that's just being fortunate because, like I said, there's other people out there who has that much, and their job is nowhere paying near even what I was paying initially.
Right.
And like I said, even back then, all those years ago, I had to make an adjustment because of initial salary I made.
Right.
And so these are some real conversations that people are dealing with every day. That like I said, and then with the pandemic and people losing jobs, it just only heightened the situation.
Yeah,
but talk to some of the different programs that for some people who may not aware of the different student loan programs and how it can benefit them or don't benefit them.
Okay, so one of the more popular programs for people that work for certain nonprofits or certain government entities, it could be state, local government, federal government. There's what they call the public service student loan forgiveness program, right? And basically, I think you have to make 120 payments
on time.
On-time payments. Yep. I think actually though they've changed it now. So if you miss a payment, you're okay as long as you pick it back up.
Yes.
So it doesn't have to be consecutive.
They made some temporary changes recently, a few days ago. Like you're saying that it's temporary where like if you made some payments, you've missed it or late, they still will count it towards your on time. They've made some changes and they've even expanded the eligibility requirements for it because during the Trump era, there were people out there who were applying, and even before that, there were people applying for the program, and a lot of people didn't quote unquote meet the criteria and were not eligible for public student loan forgiveness. And that program was particular for people who are in public service, right? If you're everyday teachers, you work for the government, you work for a nonprofit, and you make on-time payments, 120 consecutive on-time payments, right? Yeah. And there's just another number of things. Then you can get your student loans waived, essentially, after making 120 on-time payments over 10 years, essentially, right?
Yeah.
But it's really 120 monthly payments that are all on time. So,
right.
And so the recent law, like a few days ago, they really expanded it, made the requirements a lot clearer, at least temporarily, expanded the requirements, making a lot of people more eligible overall into the program. Like I said, some of those missed payments or late payments still counts towards the months. Yeah. So it really has changed the game, but it's only temporary. I think it's until October of 2022, I believe. They've extended some of those changes, but it makes a lot more people eligible for now student loan forgiveness through who's in public service currently. But that's just one program.
Right. So there's, and you kind of hit on this a little bit, there's the income-based repayment plans that you pay based on your income. So you go through, Department of Education website, you submit to them, certain information about, your income and your economic status, and then they will come up with a number for what your payment is based on that. I am not sure, you probably know better than I do, but I'm not sure how long that program actually, the length of it. I think it depends on a couple of different factors.
And I think a lot of it depends on your student loan term, because you got to look at your terms, right? Some may be 20 years, some may be 25 years,
and all of that.
Yeah, so you got to look at your terms at the end of the day when it comes to a lot of that. But yeah, income based can help during times, especially times unstable, or you're trying to sort out your job situation.
Right. Now, the income base is good, but the problem with that is, let's say you owe like $100,000, $200,000, and you come out of school, you're not making a lot. Maybe you get a job making $70,000, $80,000. Well, based on your income, it's going to take you a long time to pay that off, right? And so normally your payment would have been much, much higher, maybe like a couple thousand every month. But you would have paid it off a little bit sooner, obviously. So there's that sort of give and take. So at the end of the day, I think the current debate is really centered on what will enable people not to have this albatross around their neck to where they went to school, they did the right thing, right? And now they're just burdened with this debt for 20, 30, 40 years. The rest of their life could be in some cases, all because they decided to go get an education. And so how do we deal with that?
No, that's a great question. And actually that's something where part of it is the education. We just talked about the different programs, right?
Yeah.
And so for some, it may be too late. But for others that we know who listen to this program right now, who's probably in school or know people who about to start school, it's just being strategic in terms of what programs you're going for. Like, which loans I'm going to apply for. Hey, if I'm in certain financial need, let me make sure I go everything I can to go choose subsidized loans, right? Because the government's going to pay for those interests while I'm in school rather than going for unsubsidized loan. Now, granted, it depends on your situation. It depends on the tuition made. You may need to say, I need to get every loan I can possibly can. There's some things I look back, I'm like, maybe I could have made some changes. So looking at that, then looking at whether I go for private student loans. People don't talk about that. A lot of focus on federal. I can do private student loans, and sometimes people have to get private student loans, right? Because there's only so much limits you can get on federal student loans. But the other end, if I get private student loans, then I'm dealing with their interest rates, their terms, which may be far more outrageous than what the government's offering, right? And he hates to hear all the stories about student loan forgiveness and all that. A lot of cases
doesn't apply to those.
It won't provide private student loans. Yeah. So in my case, I'll provide one example. I got my student loans, right? I decided to take all my federal student loans and combine it through a private student loan service. They consolidated because I'm like, I didn't need to hurry and pay this. I'm tired of. I got student loans in 4 or 5 different places, all federal, and I combined it. Now, it helped me get a little bit different interest rate. But then I'm thinking in my head, man, if I stay federal, or what I should have done is consolidate all my student loans under a federal program rather than a private student loan, then it makes my options easier in case the government wants to forgive my loans one day, right? So I didn't think about some of that stuff. I was like, man, let me just find one. Man, this company will offer me $300 if I go ahead and consolidate my loans through them. Yeah. And I literally did that. And so I was like, all right, let me go and do this, get on this plan. And my plan was pay the student loans off 7 years. So I'm thinking very aggressive because I'm tired of paying student loans. Yeah. But like I said, if President Biden goes ahead, or Congress decide to go forgive student loans right now, it's not going to apply for me unless they try to put some law in Congress says this affects private student loans, but that's going to be a lot of work.
Yeah, that'll be very hard to get past.
Part of that is the education of that, and then we're going to go later on in the program in terms of what are some other ways that at least we can be better prepared in addressing the student loan crisis debt. But what's your thoughts before we head into our break?
Thoughts on, you're talking about just the...
Yeah, overall, like what are some things that people can do to really address the ongoing debt crisis?
Like I said, I think this the solution concerning forgiveness of a portion of, everyone's student loans will be really the best solution. I don't know about forgiving all loans. I don't know, I think there's going to be a lot of pushback in Congress for doing something like that, because it would be such a comprehensive program. It's never been done. It's unprecedented. But we've already seen, that they suspended student loan payments, right?
Yep.
We saw that with Trump. They even, were stopping at one point the accumulation of the interest and so on and so forth. So we've seen the federal government take measures to sort of, arrest the growth of this student loan problem. However, that was all in the context of a pandemic too, which is kind of unprecedented. So, what is a more permanent solution? Like I said, I think forgiving a portion of student loans, and perhaps they do it based on how much money you're making, what's your current economic status, that type of thing, as opposed to just forgiving them wholesale.
And we're gonna get more into that topic because that's gonna lead into that. You provide some perspective. When we get back from our break, we're gonna talk about, hey, like I said, should the government forgive all student loans? Should Congress do that? Should be a portion? Kind of heard his take. You're going to hear my take. Come back on the Shot of E&J podcast.